Hi, everyone. I know I promised videos until the start of season 2, and I'm keeping that promise, but today it won't be a video of me, but rather a slideshow of the people and events we covered in season 1. And Nina's here too.
Hi, everybody. There's still a chance that you might convince me to actually record a video with you someday.
Not holding my breath. Well, with my move, I think my video days have come to at least a temporary halt also. Between bad lighting and walls that leave a little something to be desired, my new digs aren't anything anyone wants to see, but the dog and I made it in one piece, and that's all that matters.
Well, the only thing missing is me.
True. The first time I visited this city was with you. Okay, enough of our globe-trotting memories. Let's get down to business. First, for those that don't know, the inspiration for the podcast was my late father. The topics we've been covering and will be covering are events that he was either involved in or ones that occurred in his world. He always had a story to tell, a tale actually, because it was his version of events, which more than likely involved lots of embellishment, a handful of outright lies, and quite a few threads of the truth. Nina and I were researching the people and the stories, sorting fact from fiction as best we could for 2 years before we started the podcast almost 1 year ago. The endless pile of info was originally destined for my hopefully soon to be finished book, but we realized that there was just too much for one book. Plus, we needed a way to promote it.
And so the podcast was born. The season began with John J. Red Kelly. Jack, as Lara's dad called him, was his mentor, and Richie's story couldn't be told without Jack. From there, we moved on to one of Jack's partners in crime from the post-World War II period, George William Agasatellis, better known as Billy Aggie. Billy had more than a few appearances this past season, whether making his escape on a lawnmower, acting as an agent for the postal inspectors, or as a victim of the gang war.
What happened to Billy has been the topic of much speculation, but it's likely that Billy met his end upon Jack's request. No story about organized crime in New England in those days could be told without the Brinks heist of 1950 and the Great Plymouth Mail robbery in 1962. Dad's connection to the Brinks heist was a peripheral one, as he was just a teenager when the score took place, but the only money to ever be recovered was found in the office wall of Fats Buccelli and Wimpy Bennett. Dad would eventually be arrested for the murder of Fats and was wrapped up with Wimpy, as many were in the 50s and 60s.
And we both believe that Jack Kelly was at least involved in the planning, if not actual execution, of the Brinks heist. If you've been listening to season 1 by now, you know that according to Richie and others who said they were involved, Jack, Richie, Mello Merlino, Sonny Diafario, Tommy Richards, and Roy Appleton pulled off the Plymouth Mail robbery. Mello will be back in season 2, and of course in season 3 when we cover the Gardner Museum heist. We also covered many other bank and armored car robberies going back to the 1930s.
The history. We covered the founding fathers of the Boston New England Mafia. Some questioned why we didn't profile Gaspare Messina in that episode. Instead, we focused on some of the lesser known names, but no less important in stature. Don Filippo Brucola, and Nina's favorite, Don Nene and his brother-in-law Joe Modica, were more interesting to us. Raymond Patriacca would take over the reins when Filippo Brucola returned to Sicily upon his semi-retirement.
And just like the Brinks and Plymouth heist, what would a series on the history of the mob in the Boston area be without Raymond Patriacca and Jerry Angiulo?
Both had ample coverage, and both will be back in season 2. Jerry played a prominent role in Dad's immediate world. I told the story in episode 23 about how if it wasn't for Jerry, my childhood home would have been lost thanks to one of my uncle's gambling habits.
And we'll reprise that story in season 2 when Richie does a favor for Jerry in return. Our stories weren't limited to the Mafia. Just as important to our podcast were the men of Charlestown and Somerville. The McLaughlin brothers and Buddy McLean's crew from Winter Hill had their fair share of airtime. Richie's early relationship with the McLaughlins is what led to him becoming an FBI informant with H. Paul Rico as his first handler. And Rico had nothing but utter disdain and contempt for the McLaughlins, a hatred that spawned a decades-long relationship between the feds and the Winter Hill crew, from Buddy McLean to Howie Winter, and most notably Stevie Fleming and Whitey Bulger.
The Fed's desire to keep Winter Hill on top also fueled the campaign to get Raymond off the streets. They took the long-running Maffeo-Beccari feud that was a constant in Providence and used that as a means to shut Raymond down. The wiretap at the Coin-O-Matic on Atwell's Ave and the one at Jerry's weren't enough. They needed a witness, a collaborator of sorts. And that brings us back to Jack Kelly.
Jack had initially employed John Fitzgerald as his attorney, but after he walked in on self-proclaimed mafia hitman Joe Barboza hanging Fitzgerald out of his office window, Jack got a new lawyer, F. Lee Bailey. Even after that scene with Barboza, Fitzgerald continued to dig his own grave, not only continuing his affair with Mob Mall and longtime FBI informant Dottie Barshard, but also acting in Joe's stead as a debt collector. After Barboza flipped and made a deal with the feds, Fitzgerald started driving Barboza's James Bond car, the same car that was bombed in January of '68, resulting in Fitzgerald losing his leg. The story that was put out by the FBI was that the mafia blew up the car to scare Barboza into not testifying against them. That case wouldn't be prosecuted until 1972.
Soon after the bombing, Fitzgerald was wheeled into court to testify at the Teddy Deegan murder trial. Fitzgerald had also been Teddy's attorney. Barboza's testimony in that case would send several innocent men to prison for life, a murder that he himself committed along with his favorite partner in crime, Jimmy Fleming.
Of course, we'll be discussing the fate of the wrongfully convicted men in seasons 2 and 3.
Barboza wasn't the only government witness. In our season 1 finale, we left you with Jack becoming a cooperating witness.
And let's not forget the infamous meeting between Richie, Pro Learner, Louis Minacchio, and Rudy Sciarra at the Rib Room parking lot in Braintree, supposedly to discuss killing Special Agents H. Paul Rico and Gerard Coleman, along with Jack Kelly and the U.S. Marshal.
Who can forget that story? Next week, we'll be giving a preview of what we'll be covering next season. And then the following week, on September 12th, we'll be back to our normal schedule with the premiere of season 2.
Hope all of our loyal listeners will be joining us and lots of new ones. Lara usually asks, but today it's my turn. Please share our podcast with someone you know. It's because of all of you that we've smashed the 34,000 download mark.
Yes, thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.